Charles Bukowski has often been pegged as a gritty, rough-around-the-edges writer who doesn't pull any punches. But if you look beyond the booze, the women, and the gritty realism, you'll find that his work contains a deep existential wisdom. Bukowski's world is chaotic, sometimes ugly, and always unapologetically honest. And within this chaos, he presents a unique perspective on living authentically in a meaningless world. While Bukowski wasn't a philosopher in the traditional sense, his writing shares a deep connection with existential themes. His work is influenced by existential thinkers like Dostoevsky and Nietzsche. Nietzsche's idea of living dangerously is evident in Bukowski's rejection of social expectations and his embrace of personal freedom. Bukowski's characters often struggle with their place in a cruel and absurd world, echoing Dostoevsky's explorations of the human psyche. However, Bukowski's characters confront life with raw, unfiltered honesty instead of finding solace in ideology or religion. Bukowski's disdain for living by others' rules goes beyond mere rebellion. It's a philosophical stance. He despises being constrained by tradition and instead chooses to live on his own terms, no matter how messy those terms might be. And this rejection of conventional living forms the core of his existential outlook. Meaning isn't something handed down from above, but something you carve out for yourself, often in the face of overwhelming odds. Bukowski's world is absurd, and he knows it, and this notion aligns closely with Albert Camus' philosophy of the absurd, in which life has no inherent meaning, and our efforts to impose meaning on it are ridiculous. Bukowski's characters struggle with this realization, yet they continue to live, not because they find meaning, but because they accept that there isn't any. They keep going, often relying on humor, alcohol, or sheer stubbornness to get through the day. Instead of comforting lies, Bukowski presents life's absurdity as something to face head on. In stories like The Most Beautiful Woman in Town, his characters encounter life's harshest realities with a grim sense of acceptance, finding moments of beauty in the things that make life difficult. The lesson here is stark. Life may be tricky and often meaningless, but that doesn't mean it's not worth living. Authenticity is a recurring theme in Bukowski's work. His characters don't fit into neat social boxes. They live on the fringes, not out of choice, but because they refuse to be anything other than who they are. For Bukowski, authenticity means rejecting the false comfort of social approval and embracing one's true self, flaws and all. In Post Office, Henry Chinaski, Bukowski's alter ego, works a soul-crushing job, not because he cares about the work, but because it funds his real life, writing, drinking, and womanizing. And Chinaski isn't interested in promotions or social accolades. He simply wants to live the way he wants. And this relentless pursuit of authenticity, no matter how unorthodox or messy, is central to Bukowski's existential message. Bukowski's concept of freedom differs from the kind celebrated with grand gestures or fireworks. It's a heavy, often lonely freedom that comes with responsibility. Bukowski's characters are free because they've rejected traditional expectations, but this freedom comes with a price. They're responsible for their own lives, their own failures, and their own happiness, and this echoes Sartre's idea that we're condemned to be free, that with freedom comes the burden of making our own choices and living with the consequences. In Ham on Rye, Bukowski explores the loneliness accompanying this freedom. His characters can live as they wish, but this freedom isolates them from others. They are left to deal with life's challenges on their own without the safety net of social approval or support. And yet there's a certain satisfaction in this isolation. They are living life by their own rules, and that, for Bukowski, is what truly matters. Alienation is a recurring theme in Bukowski's work, mirroring its presence in existential literature. His characters often feel disconnected from society, isolated by their refusal to conform to its demands. And this isolation is both a source of pain and a pathway to self-discovery. Bukowski's characters are often loners, not because they want to be, but because they can't stand the falseness of social interactions. In factotum, Henry Chinaski drifts from one meaningless job to another, never settling down or fitting in, and his alienation is palpable, but it also drives him to search for something real, something true. For Bukowski, alienation is a symptom of modern life and a necessary part of the search for authenticity. Only by stepping away from the crowd can one truly find themselves. Death is a constant presence in Bukowski's work as well. His characters are acutely aware of their mortality, shaping their existential outlook. For Bukowski, death is the ultimate absurdity, a reminder that no matter how hard we try to make sense of life, it will all end in nothingness. But this isn't a cause for despair. Instead, it underscores the importance of living without pretense and finding moments of joy and beauty in a harsh and unforgiving world. In poems like The Laughing Heart, Bukowski encourages readers to beat death in life by engaging fully with life and finding the light even in the darkest times. His characters don't face death with fear, but with the resigned acceptance. They know it's coming, and that knowledge strengthens their resolve. Bukowski's work offers several practical lessons for those trying to make sense of an absurd world. First, acknowledge life's absurdity. It doesn't always make sense, and that's okay. Instead of imposing meaning where there is none, find small pleasures in the chaos. Second, reject external expectations. Don't live according to someone else's rules. Be true to yourself, even if it means standing alone. And third, find meaning in the ordinary. Life's big moments are rare. Most comprise small, everyday experiences. Learn to appreciate those. His characters, despite their flaws, are resilient. They keep going, even when life seems pointless or everything falls apart. There's a lesson in that resilience, an existential lesson that's as relevant today as when Bukowski first put pen to paper. Bukowski's work serves as a bridge between existential literature and the gritty realities of modern life. Like Camus, Bukowski's characters confront the absurdity of existence, but where Camus offers philosophical reflection, Bukowski provides a raw, unfiltered view of life. Unlike Dostoevsky, who favors deep psychological explorations, Bukowski's characters are more concerned with surviving another day in a world that doesn't care about them. Bukowski's portrayal of freedom and responsibility also aligns with Sartre's existentialism. His characters are free to live as they choose, but this freedom comes with a heavy burden. They're responsible for their own lives, for finding meaning in a world that often seems devoid of it. And this burden gives Bukowski's work its existential weight and sense of urgency. While Bukowski's existentialism has much to offer, it's not without its shortcomings. His work often flirts with nihilism, with characters who take a perverse pleasure in their suffering. Romanticizing this pain, seeing it as the only path to authenticity, can be dangerous. And Bukowski's portrayal of women is also problematic. He often reduces them to mere objects of desire or sources of pain, and this limits the reach of his existential message, making it less accessible to those who don't fit his narrow view of the world. Moreover, Bukowski's work can sometimes feel repetitive, with the same themes and ideas appearing repeatedly. And while this repetition can reinforce his existential message, it can also make his work feel one-dimensional, lacking the depth and variety of other existential writers. Bukowski's writing offers a unique and powerful perspective on existentialism. His flawed and often broken characters provide valuable lessons on living genuinely in a world that usually feels meaningless. They teach us to accept life's absurdities, reject others' expectations, and find value in the everyday. And while his work has its shortcomings, it remains a compelling exploration of what it means to be human. So, what can we learn from Bukowski? That life, while often absurd, is still worth living. That freedom comes with responsibility, but that responsibility is what gives life its meaning. And that in the end, the only way to beat death is to live fully, to laugh in the face of the inevitable, and to make the most of the time you have. As always, if you liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support means the world, and here's another one on existentialism if you like.